to you. There may be one or two technical hitches, so we're just going to have to leave that, but it was nearly at the end, so we're going to move on to Anne. Scary bit over.
The first words that I heard from Jack and Joan were action research, so that's why I chose my entry. But actions do speak louder than words. This time next week, nobody, I can guarantee, will remember the content of this presentation in its entirety. I think you might remember the entrance. And that's why it is important every moment counts for these kids. So I'm going to talk to you today about what we got out of the collaborative inquiry at our nursery at Short Steps. It started way back in March 2010 when I met all of the people that they've inspired me all over again this morning, listening to all their stories. I don't know how many tears I've cried, but I'm now recognised as the emotional one in the room, unfortunately. It's not very nice. But when we were at Cross's Country Park, I thought, yet another training course, tick of the box and off I go. It wasn't like that. And I knew it was going to be different because what they were talking about, in a small way, it was what I was doing at my nursery. I was watching my practitioners to learn from them. They were teaching me every day. Somebody sat next to me at that very first meeting, and Joan and Jack and Janice were asking for support from the settings, and she nudged me and said, I haven't got time, I don't think this is for me. What a tragedy, that's what I think, because she's lost out on this wonderful journey that we've all been very privileged to be involved in. I don't know who she was, but if she's here today, she may well change her mind. So, my journey, well, it's been emotional, hasn't it, girls and boys? Joan and Jack encouraged me to write a personal account because they said you need to know what makes you tick, what matters to you before you can decide truly in your heart where you want to go with this inquiry. So I did. I wrote a very personal journey, another emotional moment. And in that journey, I did share it with the people around me because we all wrote our personal journeys. But what came out of it was almost an epiphany of, yeah, that's why I'm here in childcare. My parents, not just these children, I serve a unit, I don't just serve children. And what I do for that child impacts on that family. So my passion is parental partnerships. But the journey was about me, and I was very sceptical. I didn't want to write it because it felt I'm a service to other people. It isn't about me, but it is because it's what drives me to make the difference. So we're just going to have a little bit of role play. With the help of Bernie, I'm going to reenact a few scenes from my previous life, shall we say, before childcare. The first scene is me in my bedroom at 17 years of age. Anne? I'm in the room!
What are you doing?
Oh, Mum, some chemistry level tomorrow.
Oh,
I've got to revise.
Oh, Anne, what's wrong?
Just want to revise.
But Anne, Coronation Street's on.
Scene 2. 8 years later, and here I am with my dad. Dad, you know, I've been doing this research. Well, I'm thinking of doing a PhD.
Never mind a PhD. Get yourself a JOB.
So, as you can see, academia wasn't high on the list of priorities from my parents. However, it is high on my list, and I pursued an academic career, and I did become a doctor of chemistry. But, you know, I was in the workplace for many years, and I was very happy in the job I did. But then I met my husband. We had 4 children in less than 5 years, a very busy time. Very busy. And we looked for childcare for our own children. Can I say we weren't living in Liverpool at the time? And we just didn't think it was good enough. So we decided to open our own nursery. A bit dramatic. So I don't think childcare was my vocation. I do think it was my destiny. So opening the childcare day nursery, recommended, still not sure, because the early years consumed us. It was so hard, because I'll never apologise for having high standards, and that's how I operate, and that's how I want everybody who's with me on the journey in childcare to operate, to the highest standards. But I wanted my staff to go on their own journey. Everybody here knows about the statutory framework that governs us. We have to work under the principles of the EYFS. What I found from Joan, Jack and Janice on this inquiry was that we could make it personal. We can still deliver the principles of the EYFS, but we can do it in a collaborative way, and we will never forget that every moment counts. So my job was to make sure my staff bought into the principle. And we did this in various ways. I gave them, it started, Joan and Jack kindly came to the nursery to inspire them, far better than I ever did. And then I started to give them questionnaires. I needed to hear the voice of my practitioners. What frustrated them? What did I do wrong? What didn't I do well enough? And they were pretty critical, I have to say. I won't say it at times, but what I got from those questionnaires was a passion that even as the owner of that nursery, even I didn't know was there in those practitioners, and I worked with them every day. So it was an important process, because the collaborative inquiry woke me up to my own resource. I don't want to pay lip service to this process. I want to embody it, and I want to deliver. And that's what my staff do on a daily basis with children. So, what you'll see here is a video clip of some of the, it'll represent the themes of the EYFS. The first clip will talk about positive relationships. All these ideas come from my practitioners, nothing to do with me. They have organised parent days in our nursery, and that's what you will see, and how those partnerships have benefited enormously. The second clip is about the unique child. We know every child is unique. We've never doubted that. But there are times in a child's life when they need a little bit of extra care and attention. And in the case of Alara, who left us in October 2010 with a very severe brain condition and returned to us 6 weeks before this video was taken, unable to walk with very limited speech. I'll let you see the results for yourself. And the third clip is how, when we provide enabling environments, our children learn and develop. So let's look at the clip.
they came for a visit that she is trying to do as regularly as she can, but she obviously has a very demanding workload. And her action plan read, try to get Alara
to take 2 steps. And here we are. So we've seen all these practitioners this morning and the difference they make. And there it is again, because Alara is now walking. And the inclusivity of that practice, those children don't question Alara's disability. They just include it. It's what kids do. The final clip was actually myself, because my staff decided it was time I did a bit of work with the children. So the children created their own enabling environment. They made their own barefoot walk with many different things involved. I have to say I didn't like the pebbles. And then they learned and developed from that activity. So how has it helped me? What's the difference? You heard Kathy this morning with Bernie. It's a common misconception that childcare is easy. It's not. And you need to be professional to deliver good quality childcare. We are a team, we're a good team, we depend on each other, but what the collaborative inquiry has done for us, it's almost forced us together and made us depend on each other more and have more trust in each other. We're strong independently, but we're mighty as a team. So since the girls have adopted a lot of the principles of the moment by moment, and each time they're delivering the UIFS and they're looking at the areas for development, at the forefront of their mind is every moment counts. And we do have a common goal. There's a real buzz around our nursery, and parents can feel it because they're invited in to see it, and they're always welcome to stay whenever they visit. But we want to move forward. We don't want to stop here. We're not paying lip service to the words collaborative inquiry. We want to implement this and make a difference in the way we develop as a nursery. So we will be reflecting more. The problem, I have one problem, and Debbie talked about there are negatives in these things. The problem I have is, how am I going to meet the expectations of my staff? It's a nice problem to have. So what do we intend to do at Small Steps? We do want to forge partnerships. We want to work with Sue and Kathy and all the other nurseries out there, and Carl and Emma that you've seen earlier this morning with their wonderful work. I want a piece of that. And they're welcome to share a piece of us. Our doors are open to academia. Trust me, you will be amazed at the wealth of knowledge that exists in nurseries in Liverpool. We feel that peer observations are a way forward, and I would be honoured and privileged if the people you've seen talking around this table, such as Mandy and Sue, Debbie, Cal, if they came into my nursery to do peer observations, I know it'd make a difference. I just hope they'll invite us to this. So, I hope you've all been paying attention, because there's now a quick quiz. Let's see. How many, can you raise your hands please, if the answer to this question is yes, entered straight into a job when you left school at 16? Maybe 10-15%. 94% of my staff did. How many of you knew you wanted to go into childcare at 16? 25%. 95% of my staff did. And how many in the room today have or are working towards a degree? 90%? 6% of my staff have. There's a real difference in demographics in this room, isn't that? And yet, there may be very well educated people here, but never underestimate the power of intelligence. because that's what my staff have. Every day they solve problems. You heard people talking about not having an education, like Debbie. Rubbish. She's one of the most articulate, intelligent people I know. But she doesn't need an education to be that. So, I've got an analogy for you because I want to try and get my message across as strongly as I can. Imagine Raymond Blanc has invited you to his personal kitchen, and it is fabulous. There's every ingredient in the world of the best quality from the best suppliers. And there's 10-speed mixers, and there's utensils to die for, and there's cookers and everything you could possibly need. And Raymond Blanc helping you make a banquet that is fit for a king. Then you go back to your nursery. You've got to feed 46 kids. And you've got no utensils. And you haven't got those ingredients. Do you not see, if you came to our nursery as knowledgeable academics, the difference we could make to you and you could make to us by seeing the limits we have to operate within? We know there's a place for research in our nursery. Do you know there's a place for us in research? Things do need to change. I'm convinced of it. I was convinced of it the day I started on the collaborative inquiry. Classroom teaching will not work on its own. Our doors are open to academia, but listen to the voice of the practitioners, because as you've seen this morning, it's so knowledgeable and rich with information. Develop the training from the bottom up. Reverse your thinking powers. You know, let the strong help the weaker practices. Work together to make Liverpool deliver a better standard of childcare. We can create small cluster groups. You know, we're able to do that. That's not a problem for us in nursery settings. And we can evaluate the effectiveness of our own groups. But what we need to deliver this is a dedicated resource. It won't happen without that resource. You know, if you fail to plan, you may as well plan to fail. So someone has to drive this change. It won't happen. It won't just happen. And I had an analogy in my mind. You know, we're all familiar with the 3 R's of safeguarding: recognise, record, report. We've got 3 J's. We've got Joe, we've got Jack, and we've got Janice, and we can use that. Just give them the tools they need to be able to help us drive the changes forward. So in summary, well, the summary is pretty obvious, it's there in front of you. We fundamentally need to change the way we're working together. Let this be the first step. Challenge what the practice is today and tap into the resource that's available to you from the practitioner. Use their experience just as I have. That's what I've done. I know that they are the best informers of my practice. And use your fundamental learning as a child. What did you learn before you crossed the road? Stop, look, listen. Stop what you're doing. Look at what you've got around you. Look at the amount of knowledge that you have. And listen to the voice of the practitioner, just as I have. So, that is my last challenge to you. To take up the resource and use it. Thank you. I am happy to take questions. No, you can't borrow a skateboard, I have to return it. You want me to be? No. Can I skate back, of course? If you My friend over his hand is close.
So Catherine, now I think we have Emma from Line Pictures, who's going to give a... Oh no, hopscotch, I beg your pardon, it is right, I'm wrong. You said that.
Every moment counts, more so in the early years. Yes, we do change nappies and we do play with children. That's our job, but every moment we spend with the children counts. Parents leave their most precious possession in our care. The responsibility is vastly underrated. So is it surprising that early years workers lack confidence about their profession? Personally, I never planned to have a career in childcare, but I was lucky enough to experience a variety of work-life environments. I went to work part-time after the birth of my first child, filling my spare time minding friends and family's children. As my mother used to say, if you have one, you might as well have five. When I had my second child, I decided to become a registered childminder, looking after children for working parents, for parents who needed help for short periods of time. I developed skills working with children who needed support with behaviour, social, emotional needs and disabilities. Each child needs individual care and attention, and like most parents, you find the time to give them it. I just got on with my days. I don't think I ever really thought of it as a real job. It was something I enjoyed doing, and as an added bonus I got paid for it. I got involved in the local play group, and this is when I started to do my first childcare qualifications. This was probably the starting point of realising I actually understood the reasons behind my actions, and I began to feel confident in my role. This is when I started to think of it as a real career. I was lucky enough to have a childhood where my father's favourite saying was there's no such word as can't. So when I decided to move from childminding into nursery care, I didn't think I really thought of it. I just found suitable premises and went for it. I opened Hotspot with rose-tinted glasses, thinking everything would just fall into place. It would be a bright, welcoming environment where children would receive the individual care they did from a childminding setting, and they were all treated with the same respect and care I had for my own children. I soon began to realise my biggest challenge was getting the right team of staff to work with me. Once I had them, it was my job to motivate them and support them in their role. The biggest issue was to get practitioners to believe in themselves, how different my new role was. In the past, my focus was for any child in my care to believe in themselves, to have aspirations and to feel valued. But now my focus had to be on the practitioners and not just the children themselves. Collaborative inquiry started with celebrating the work we do with children and evaluating our practice. It was only on the first session I realised to make a difference, my new responsibility was to build self-confidence in the practitioners who work with the children, giving them the skills to aim higher for themselves, and they can then promote this to the children. After all, how can someone cascade this positive attitude when they don't believe in themselves? I felt quite sad when we were asked to think about a child's life who we believed we had had an impact on. None of them could do it, even though immediately I could name children in the setting they had each personally had a positive contribution to. In the past, I've invested in training for the practitioners, but rarely seen it implemented. I now realise this is a confidence issue and not a motivational one. Practitioners need to feel confident in their own ability by realising the positive impact they have on children. I can now see a difference in practice and the responsibility that the practitioners take. Most of the practitioners who have been involved in the inquiry related to their own childhood experiences when an adult who was involved in their upbringing or education had left a long-lasting impact on how they feel about themselves. I'm sure we can all remember times when a teacher or adult in our lives have either made you feel worthwhile or unimportant. With this in mind, it is easier to understand the importance of why every moment counts in a child's life and the importance of an early years practitioner and teacher's attitudes. Every minute they spend with adults will have a major impact on a child's self-esteem and confidence, and I'm now aware it's my responsibility to ensure the adults looking after children at Hopscotch feel valued and stay motivated. Whatever we do gives children their first impressions of who they are, and as we know, they are all special.
I'm Chloe and I'm Deputy Manager at Hopscotch Childcare. When starting at Hopscotch, I wasn't a confident practitioner at all. I always remember wanting to say something, but it just would never come out of my mouth because I didn't have the confidence. I then started reflecting on my practice and realised that I was actually good at my role. This gave me the confidence to become a confident practitioner. Since the inquiry, Sue was reflecting on her practice. This has enabled myself to receive a lot more responsibility. Due to the reflection, this has had a big impact on my confidence at Hopscotch. Jenny will talk about the strong changes and the impact she's had with an individual child at Hopscotch.
Hi, my name's Jenny and I run the preschool room at Hopscotch. Confidence to me means being able to do the things that you want and need to without hesitation. I have had a positive impact on a child in my setting who wasn't communicating with the practitioners or the children due to his lack of confidence. I decided to focus on his confidence at first. I built up a good relationship with the child and then I observed him daily. He began saying a few words and then small sentences. He is now a confident little boy at Hopscotch who interacts daily with practitioners and children. I can see his development growing in all areas. Every day I reflect on his small steps he has achieved and I realise that this is because of my understanding of his personal needs and I have achieved this.
Libby is also going to speak about the impact that she has had on a child at Hopscotch.
Hi, I'm Libby and I'm a practitioner at Hopscotch. Confidence is really important to me as I understand if you don't have confidence, it has a big impact on your daily routine. I had a little boy who came into Hopscotch as his older brother was attending. He wouldn't interact with any practitioners or other children apart from his brother. I then built up a positive relationship with the child. His confidence is growing. He now goes home talking about what he's done at Hopscotch. This makes me feel proud to know that I have helped a child to develop confidence at Hopscotch. I feel that people don't realise the importance of a practitioner. It is not just about playing with the child all day. It's about the impact of children's development and partnership and support we offer to parents and families.
Natalie is going to speak about what confidence means to her.
I'm Natalie and I'm a practitioner at Hopscotch. As a key person, confidence means to me is that being happy and proud about what I do in my job, as I feel doing something that you love helps you to become confident by providing experiences and supporting children to develop a positive sense about themselves. By socialising with others and learning respect for themselves and also for others. I also think that confidence to children means that helping them to feel special and good about themselves and to help them understand that they can feel safe and secure, and to show a sense of trust by gaining inner strength to create a bond with an adult, by giving children the opportunity to express their feelings through their learning. Due to the inquiry, it has reflected on my practice by speaking to staff and asking for support when I feel that I need it. I'm working as part of a team to support others and provide good learning opportunities for children in our care. As a practitioner, I feel that is important for all of us, as I think that we are role models in a children's life.
In that section where the 4 practitioners were talking, it would perhaps be one of the first opportunities that they'd all talked about what they felt was important about, you know, the way that they worked with children. So I'm sort of really understanding now that notion of how they come together and collaborate and talk about their work together, because I'm assuming that's something that you wouldn't naturally do before.
I think most settings probably similar to ours at Rompers is that they take about time restraint. So, and like Julie said earlier, you know, when you actually condense the amount of time you have to get together and meet, it tends to be sort of staff meetings, and it's functional, isn't it, Anne, where you're going through all these things, you've got to remember to tell people, and it is quite difficult to get together. But I think because of the collaborative inquiry, people are starting to understand that that's what's valuable, and that's when you enable your staff and empower your staff, that's what's going to make the difference.
But also the act of doing that, actually coming together and doing that, is going to make a difference to them, and in turn then to the...
Well, of course, because if you're making your own staff confident and acknowledging that how valuable they are to the children, that obviously will then reflect on how well the children are going to do in any setting.
Does anybody else want to add a comment or a question at this point?
I got one comment from my presentation that's really bothering me, and it was, did I say my staff are good, but the reason why they're good, unlike all these practitioners here, is because we're always striving to be better.
And then the other thing is that the idea of confidence, and there's a lot to that, talking about confidence. It actually is very, it's actually quite complex, because it just keeps coming back that there's probably more to say on that.
I'd like to introduce Emma Simon from Line Pictures, who's going to talk to us some experience that she's had developing this wonderful quilt that I'm hoping that lots of people have had a chance to have a good look at.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Emma, and I'm the Deputy Officer in Charge from the nursery at Line Pictures. And I'd just like to tell you what the collaborative inquiry has meant to us. This is our journey. At the beginning of the collaborative inquiry, myself and Cal were unsure as to where we fitted in with this project and what we could do to try and make a difference. We had always worked hard over the years within our nursery to develop a really good partnership with parents. We felt that having a deep understanding of parents and families would help us better meet the needs of each individual child. To do this, we have developed a number of additional services, including a parent forum group, a Facebook communication group, and we also now offer regular Saturday stay and play sessions. This has all been really successful in helping us to create a nursery community for children, parents, families and staff. However, we felt that there was still something more we could do to reach all of the parents and families. We decided that we wanted to make something collaboratively that symbolised all of our values, helping us to find out what is truly important to our parents and families, what makes them who they are. After much deliberation and discussion, Cal came up with the idea of the quilt. The idea was for every parent to be given an equal sized square of material, for them to express their values in whatever way they felt most appropriate. This was totally optional, and parents could contribute as little or as much as they liked. We wanted to ensure that this was an inclusive project which welcomed all. However, there was no pressure for parents who did not want to participate, as we have huge understanding about how precious time is and often how hard it is to come by. Parents who didn't feel confident in coming along to any of the sessions or talking about their values, but who still wanted to be involved, could do this in their own time and their own way at home. The response we got from this was outstanding. We were all so pleased and overwhelmed with the results of the squares we got back. It was amazing to see how much the amount of time, thought and effort that had gone into every single square. Each one is equally important and valued by us greatly. Often settings can use the excuse that their parents are too busy and haven't got the time to participate in these sorts of nursery activities. However, we feel this project we have completed is living proof that this is not true. Most of our parents have really stressful jobs and work very long hours, and yet many of them still manage to make the time to help, often on more than one occasion. For me, the most poignant and special part of this project has been the coming together and the sharing of stories with the parents. We had 2 occasions when we invited the parents to come along and to help us sew the quilt together. One of these occasions was a Saturday afternoon, and the children were invited to come along and help too. The other occasion was an evening event just for parents and staff. Both of these occasions were lovely. There was such a nice atmosphere with laughter, tears and lots of chatter. Everybody who was there had their own unique story to share, and it was an absolute pleasure to listen and learn from others. People were proud to share happy childhood family memories that had helped them develop the values that they have today. The process of sewing this quilt together as a community is a metaphor for the whole collaborative inquiry. It encompasses the inquiry as it symbolises working together. The essence of the inquiry is to share stories and learn from others using a living theory method. People who have been involved in the making of this quilt range from generation to generation, including mums, dads, brothers, sisters, aunties, and even grandparents.
Hello, my name's Kate, and I've been asked to talk to you a little bit about the quilt square that I made for the nursery quilt. When the nursery said they were going to be making a quilt and wanted each family to contribute a square that expressed their values of their family in some way, I was immediately excited because I really enjoy making things. Then I started to worry about it a bit because I wondered how you can possibly sum up what your family is about in one quilt square. I kept putting off starting it until finally inspiration struck. When our daughter was born, one of the gifts we received from my parents was a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and a bookmark was placed at the passage about children. The passage reads, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backwards nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth." It wasn't until I read this passage through the eyes of a new parent that the meaning of the words finally sunk in and perfectly summed up what parenthood meant to me and Mabel's dad. When I thought about that, I realised that was what I should put on the square. I chose to embroider the words, and I thought it'd be nice to embroider them around the image of a tree, which is the visual representation of the tree of life. It wasn't until Cal invited me to talk about the square that I realised the act of embroidering the words was in itself symbolic of my family. My mum was a huge influence in my life, and it's from her that my love of craft and creating things has come. my mum is a very creative person herself, and when I was growing up, she taught me how to sew and knit, amongst lots of other things. She never forced her interest on me, she was just there ready to share her knowledge when I asked. As I was sewing the words into the quilt square, I was very aware that it is in part an expression of my love for my daughter, but I now realise it is also in part an expression of my love for my mum and all that she has passed on to me. It would be lovely to think that maybe one day my daughter might ask me to teach her some of those skills, but she may not be interested, and that's fine too. The most important thing is that she knows that what we've passed on through the generations is an acceptance of her as her own person and an unquestioning love. I think that's really what family is all about, and that's what this quilt square is about too.
Hi, we chose Harry's Quilt Square because we wanted to symbolise enjoying their family. So we drew both of Harry's hands, and then we drew a mummy hand and a daddy hand reaching out to with the joining of Harry's hands to symbolise enjoying our family.
I'm the nan, and I've got 2 daughters who are involved in the nursery and 3 grandchildren in the nursery. And I'm so proud of what they've achieved in doing this quilt and the values they've put into it, or the family values that I've taught them myself.
I chose to do hands for my square for the quilt because it signifies a family unit for me. There's Jack, and then there's me, and then there's his dad. I also put Steve's family on the top because that's what it is to me. There's a song by Love which has got that title, and every time I hear it, it just makes me think of us as a family, and it just means everything to me. It's the most important thing to me in the world. So that's why I decided to do that.
For my square, I decided I would choose to do my family's handprints, as family is very important to me. I drew round all our hands and interlocked them together to form my family unit, myself, my boyfriend and my daughter. Around our handprints, I drew hearts to represent members of my family who are important to me, for example, my mum, dad and sister.
I would just like to introduce Claire Dunn, who is a parent from our setting and who has very kindly agreed to take the time out of her busy day to come here and explain to you all about what the quilt means to her.
The quilt means a whole variety of things for me. It shows a sense of love and abundance from all the parents, staff and children and family members who had a hand in making it. From conception to reality, it really was and still is a labour of love, and is something we should all be very proud of. It is the love we have for our children and the shared common goals of parents and staff that enabled us to create our quilt. This quilt is our nursery. It's the families, the stories we have to tell, the most important qualities we value. We work together as a family, and I use the word family because in all intents and purpose, we are a nursery family. I trust the staff with the most precious things in my life, my children, and I am confident that they love my children and care for them in the way I would want and make every moment of their nursery life meaningful. The quilt demonstrates this for me.
Finally, I'd just like to say that we feel the quilt has been a huge success in helping us to get to know the individual parents on a much deeper level, and therefore the child and where they are coming from. We can't thank them enough, as this would not have been possible without their help and support, and we truly appreciate every moment of shared love and care that has been put into this quilt. Personally, I feel that I can speak on behalf of myself and the rest of our community to say that we are so proud of what we have all achieved. To us, this is not just a quilt, it's a symbol of our love for which we share for each and every child and family within our community. People outside of our community will not have as much of an understanding and connection with this, because they do not know the story, the family and the child behind each patch. For us, this has helped us to know them better, and we love our precious quilt. This journey has been inspirational, and every moment has counted in the overall success of the project.